Hello, everybody, and welcome to this asynchronous presentation of the Lee Road Action Plan. This presentation was originally given to the public at the dealership located on Lee Road on May 7th, 2025. Today, we are hoping to cover this agenda. We will do some brief introductions of the team in a short bit. We will cover the meeting purpose. We will ensure that you understand kind of the project background and the time frame for this project. We will cover what our design team is using to develop the project, including all of the components that are listed there in sub-bullets. We'll wrap up then with some next steps, and we will encourage you to participate in a survey that link that will be provided on the city's website. This is a co-sponsored project by Cuyahoga County and the city of Shaker Heights. The design team is principally headed by Chagrin Valley Engineering, Jim Shea and Reed Williams. Myself, Chad Britnell, I'm a landscape architect. I run our Cleveland office, and I'm joined here today with Ellen Schmidt, a mobility specialist who works out of our Chicago office. Today, we are hoping to cover this ground with you. It's important. There's been a tremendous amount of work done on this project in the past. We're transitioning from that conceptual work to engineering plans. As we begin to kind of design and develop the document sets that will provide these bicycle facilities on Lee Road, we're going to cover with you both the roadway and the changes that are likely to be seen on Lee Road. That will include intersection improvements. Most certainly, we'll get into some of the details of bicycle facilities and streetscape design as well. The other key component that we're looking to gather from the community and through this public engagement process is to capture that feedback from you, the community, understand the specifics around some of the things that we've just talked about presenting, but also find opportunities where we can layer in things like placemaking, talk about materials and aesthetics. This team is very experienced in doing these types of mobility projects. Smith Group is participating with as a subconsultant to CBE right now on 4 different projects that are happening in the larger Cleveland area. These projects are federally funded grant projects that are looking to kind of build off the work that was done on the Cuyahoga Greenways Plan. They will address key gaps in the system, and they will really provide a lot of opportunity and build out the bicycle network. In doing this, we've spent similar times engaging with the public, developing appropriate routes informed by the public, and talking about the different facilities. We're currently developing documents for what's called the Slavic Village Downtown Connector and Morgana Run, bringing those forward for construction earlier or later this year. But we've also done these types of facilities elsewhere. We've worked in Ann Arbor, it's significantly in the downtown to enhance the bicycle facilities. And then we've done a lot as well in Detroit. These are a small sampling of the mobility projects that our firms regularly participate on. And it really has a great way of building kind of complete streets for everybody and really working to be a catalyst for the communities in which they're placed. So as we mentioned previously, and as which many of you who are tuning in today, you've likely participated in public engagement sessions for this Lee Road project previously. We want to cover a couple of those key points that came out of that early work and kind of talk about how that information is foundational to what we're doing. When the Lee Road Action Plan was prepared, there were 3 different kind of traffic strategies that were discussed. The one that's highlighted in fuchsia there, road diet with center, turn lane, and median, was the one that was selected principally by the largest percentage of the community, followed by a road diet without medians and just maintaining the existing traffic lane. So the things that we're preparing to show you today are the precursor to that road diet with median turn lanes. You will note that we have not identified any medians yet, that those come as we continue to dive into the design, principally around some of the more technical components. Out of the Lee Road Action Plan, we also all of the things on the left-hand side of the screen are going to be enveloped in the work that we're producing as part of this project. But it's important to note that the community identified the desire to invest in public spaces as the most significant priority from their standpoint. And then when we gave the community an opportunity to choose which type of bicycle facility they would be most interested in, whether in-road options or fully separated options, the community chose off-road shared use path for pedestrians and bicycles. And that is the component that we've moved forward with as a team that Ellen will speak to you in a little bit. As we talk about moving from concept to reality, we're taking the work that was done in the Lee Road Action Plan, and we're supporting it with a lot of data and a lot more additional rigor as it becomes to safety and the operations of the roadways. We're thinking about companion projects that are happening that we'll talk a little bit about relative to the utilities. We have to be mindful of maintaining access to property. We have to work through kind of cost and constructability. Really, we're taking these plans from kind of previous good ideas to make sure that it's working through all of those different details, and that we can actually execute something that is feasible, that takes into account kind of the range of complexities and challenges that we face when we dive deep here. And while the image on the right-hand screen is very detailed, what we've done is we've kind of pulled these back, and we'll be showing you more graphic style examples so that people can really understand the type of improvements that are being proposed. So that's what we'll see a little bit later in the presentation. Okay. So relative to the project timeline, we began our process in the winter of 2025, and we've had a couple of opportunities to touch base with stakeholder groups. This is our first full-scale public meeting, and as we work through our process, you can see in the green we're about to jump into kind of the construction plan development. We will come back to the community and ask for you to participate and give you the opportunity for additional feedback. The goal for this project is that we would finish that development of those documents by the end of this year, so that we can advertise these plans for bid in early of 2026. By doing so, that sets us up for a schedule of construction starting in the summer of 2026. And so that's very exciting that these are coming right around the corner. As we talk about the project, you'll hear us talk about a couple of different scenarios and different configurations. On the screen, just for everybody's orientation, north is on the right-hand side of the screen. You'll see that we have some different colored bars over top of Lee Road. On the far left-hand side, the top image, you'll see the word Scottsdale. That is the city's southerly boundaries. And from Scottsdale to Chagrin, we will be employing what's called a road diet. We will be reducing the number of travel lanes to make way for a separated facility, separated two-way cycle track. And that has its own unique signature. The yellow that you see extending from Van Aken all the way up to North Park, which is the city's northerly boundary, will be in-road bicycle lanes that will receive, so the road will be repaved and restriped and incorporate those types of facilities. Those will connect to the existing facilities for Cleveland Heights. Anywhere that you see a pink arrow, similar to kind of the gap filler that we talked about with the Cleveland projects. This is going to create broad connectivity to the network in the larger landscape of the east side suburbs. So there's a planned trail for Van Aken Bikeway, and that the project on Lee actually has a companion project that's being conducted by this same team with the city of Cleveland. We've yet to kick that project off, but these bicycle facilities will continue their way all the way down to Miles Road. Okay. So I'm going to hand this over to Ellen, and she's going to speak to you about the bicycle facilities and the design work that's gone into them.
Great. Thank you, Chad. So as Chad mentioned, we do want to talk a little bit more about some of these details, and we do have some decisions to make on how we want to execute these new bicycle facilities. So one of the things that we're looking at is the transition space near the intersections that will be used by bicycles and pedestrians. So for this, we have two separate options. We have a shared path option, which you'll see on the left, and then we have a separated option that keeps bikes and pedestrians on their own separate pathways all the way up to the crossing point. So on the left, you see the Indianapolis Cultural Trail. That is one great example of a bike facility that has the shared spaces at the intersections. And the other example is a Commercial Avenue in Chicago. And there you can see the separation with the green bike lane and the pedestrians walking along the fence line in that option. So here we see, again, another example of the shared option. And I think the image on the right is a great example of what this space that we're talking about. So the yellow area that you see in the graphic is that shared space. So, and what that means is this is a space that could be used by both cyclists and pedestrians. And once you enter this space, pedestrians have the right of way and cyclists will need to yield to pedestrians. This creates a much simpler space around the intersection and reduces a lot of the complications of separating those two user groups. And people will use one combined crosswalk rather than being separated. And here is another example of our separated option. So again, you see a lot more of the green bicycle paint here, so we can keep the materials unique so you can tell the difference between the bicycle area and our pedestrian space. So here we're looking at, on the right, we have Ashley and Williams Street, and this is a project that we had done in Ann Arbor. So bikes have their separated lanes and they have their own separated crosswalk to cross the street. And you do see in both of these instances ADA crossings across the bike lane. So anytime a pedestrian does need to cross that bike lane, we'll have these crosswalk markings that you'll see here to keep that separated and safe. We'll use additional ADA tiles as well to try to help guide visually any users that may have visual deficits. So we're going to walk through a few examples of what could look like on Lee Road. So just to kind of set everybody's expectations here, we have north is to the right, and what we're looking at on this screen is the Scottsdale and Lee Road intersection. So on the left, we have the shared option. On the right, the separated. In both options, you can see we have our two-way raised cycle track that is the same in both situations. And it is just here at the corners where we see the difference. So in the shared option, we have much more open space, a lot more flexibility for people to move through this space, particularly for pedestrians. And it also gives a little bit of flexibility in the design, allowing different placement of planters or furniture or some of the placemaking elements that we might be looking for. And then in the separated version, you can see that the bike lane carries all the way up to the curb, and then the bikes are crossing the street with their own green dashed bike crosswalk, and pedestrians have their own white dashed crosswalk, which does keep people separated. And then, as I had mentioned, there are several crossing points for pedestrians. Anytime someone is crossing Lee Road, they will need to cross the bike lane, and we'll have that marked with yield marks for the cyclists to yield to pedestrians in those spaces as well. So moving north up the corridor, we now see the Chagrin intersection. Again, we have our shared option on the left and our separated option on the right. Again, you can see the difference between these two with much more kind of open, flexible space in the shared option and slightly more defined and a rigid design with the separated option. So for both of these are both best management practices. Both of these are appropriate and safe options for Lee Road. It's really just a matter of asking the community which of these would you feel more comfortable in, which would you prefer to see on Lee Road. Both provide safety and are both are commonly used tactics for bike lanes and pedestrian space throughout the country and throughout the world even. And then our final intersection that we're going to look at today is Van Aken. You do see that this one is a bit different. So we have, again, shared on the left, separated on the right. But in this instance, this is our transition point from our raised cycle track that is on the west side of the street and moving the bicyclists onto the roadway here at Van Aken. So you will see in both options, there is a separated bike ramp, and that is the point where cyclists will either enter the on-road bike ramps or enter the cycle track. So again, you can see kind of the flexibility of the space in the shared option and a little bit more of a constrained space in the separated. And I think on the separated option here, you can also see the tactile pavers that would be required along the edge of that bike lane. That's just another tool that we would use to help separate any users with visual limitations from the bike path.
Wonderful. So we're going to step now into the roadway configuration through those different sections that we mentioned previously, both the blue and the yellow. So, but first and foremost, we want to talk a little bit about the basis of how the design team started with our work. As we are looking at reducing travel lanes, principally from Chagrin to Scottsdale, this is called a road diet. This will have what's called traffic calming effects and has a lot of additional benefits. As we are doing that, not only does the speed of the road or the lane configuration reduce overall speeds, we are also looking, as we discussed, from the client the community's desire for landscape medians, which can offer buffering and additional kinds of tools with which to kind of modulate speed. The cycle track that Ellen talked about, we'll talk about in just a minute, but this will be a fully protected, separated facility located along the west side of the road from Scottsdale to Van Aken. It will have a companion walkway that's separated from pedestrians so that those two streams of modality can travel independently with one another and without conflict. Where we are crossing pedestrians or bicyclists across those, we are going to employ other improvements that ensure that those individuals can cross safely at those locations. We are looking at different signal configurations. We're looking at beacons.